I don't know a soul, but I do know all the right things are going to happen and all the right things are going to come. Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy you're here. This episode is a little special for me because I'm going to reflect on a full year of being in Tennessee birthday to birthday. And I'm sure, like many of you, birthdays are just those memorable times in your life where you are a combination of grateful for another year older, but also fearing aging and getting older. I think there's like a balance, and everyone's different on their levels of overthinking that whole piece. For me, I am grateful and then also fearful. But as I've navigated different times and probably this last year, I've just been more of a mindset of gratitude. But it's always been a really memorable time. I think, especially for an overthinker like myself, you kind of reflect on who was there, what were you doing, what were the feelings. Because it's just that one day out of the whole year, like you remember the weather because it was your one day. And some people go a little more overboard with birthdays than others. But me, I just always want to be in this happy, peaceful place with people that I enjoy being around. And so I kind of want to give just a reflection of the timeline from when I first moved to Tennessee. It was March, beginning of March, like March 1st. And my birthday is April 21st. So it was like I had been in Tennessee for not even 2 months, and I still didn't have any friends when my birthday came around back in 2023. And I think back on it, I was so lucky to have three of my wonderful girls back home fly into Nashville to come see me for my birthday last year. And I remember, I think I talked about this, my first Airbnb was in East Nashville. And then for the second month that I was figuring out where I was going to permanently live and all of those things, I had got Airbnb in Hendersonville because I had a feeling that's where I would want to be, and I needed a big enough place for my friends to come. So they fly in to BNA. I think like the day one came a day early, and then the other two came, and we did the whole Broadway thing. And all three of my girls had never been to Nashville before. And growing up in Utah, like Vegas is super close. So I was trying to tell them that's like probably the most comparable that you can give someone to what Nashville downtown is like. But I knew they'd be in for a big surprise. And my girls back home, I mean, all three of them were married before. One had been divorced a similar time around mine. So she was a key piece. But in just having them there, and they all had like different experiences, right? So two of the three of them had been divorced. One was, I don't want to I was about to say still in her first marriage, but that's not the goal, y'all. But she is married to a really great guy that me and my ex actually introduced them. So hopefully that was the purpose, their long lasting love out of ours that faded, I guess. But neither here nor there. They come into town, and I just know they have no idea what to expect. And I remember it was raining. So we're like, what are we going to do? We want to walk Broadway. They definitely wanted to see it. Again, they'd never been to Nashville. So, of course, that's what we had to do. And we're all wearing cowgirl hats. Like I had enough for all of us. And I even had some extra boots for them because so we're just definitely like touristy AF girls down doing the whole Broadway girls thing downtown Broadway. And we go down. We're just, and at this point, like I had been to Broadway a couple of times, like once with my friend before when she dropped me off and drove here with me, and we went to that Morgan Wallen concert, and her and I really painted the town that night. And then one other time sober after a date in Printer's Alley, which that's another story. So I'm Broadway sober is just like Vegas sober. Like it just feels weird to be out at night walking sober. It's just a sobering experience, I guess. But anyway, so this was only like my, I don't know, third time really being down on Broadway was with them. So we were just painting the town, doing all the things, espresso martinis, all the places. Of course, had to go to Jason Aldean's again. I mean, I did go, I guess, that other time. But anyway, since living here, I hadn't been a ton. So we did the whole thing. And this was one of those nights. I remember we went to dinner at Eddie V's, which I'd never been there before. And it was so good. But it was like probably not the best choice that we were like drinking. And then we went to like sobering up with this really good food. And then we were like dead tired. But we're downtown Broadway and we've got to make it a night because we're here. So somehow, some way, we got some shots in us and made it for the ride or die. And I remember we had such an adventurous night. And the last picture I took on Broadway was at 2:38 a.m. And we were one of those, which I don't even want to sell us out, but sorry, girls. Like, I think we were trying to get an Uber, but we were just like really drunk. And so it was probably, I'll take all the blame, but we end up like letting some guy with a van take us that wasn't even an Uber driver. So, and we're all just drinking. And I remember that I had gotten a couple numbers that night. I don't know. And one was like from Florida and one wasn't. So I just had someone in my phone called Not Florida. And we were just like the whole ride back, it was just the whole joke. We were like texting and I didn't remember their names. It was a whole, we were just, it was a whole ride. But when we finally got back to Hendersonville, because it's like, again, it's like, 30 minutes from downtown. So you can only imagine, I'm sure the driver was like, what is happening? And we're all way drunk, more drunk than, these girls had probably been in, I don't even know, because they're all moms. And we get back to the Airbnb and we're like sitting there, like about ready to get out because that's what you do when you have an Uber. But it wasn't an Uber. So he's like, so like, who's going to pay me? Like, and it was at that moment I realized, wait a minute, we like just got in some random car that's not even an Uber. But needless to say, we decided to still stay up really late that night. And we were supposed to go on this like riverboat thing the next morning. And I was so excited because I hadn't been on the water in Tennessee. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just get up. I think we were supposed to get down there by like 8 or I don't even know. So I'm up at 7, ready to roll, jump out of bed. And they're like, literally, Heather, we're not going. Do you really want to go? Like, we're not. And you got to think about it. We were downtown taking a picture on Broadway at 2:38. So I'm not sure what time we went to bed, but I would say it was close to 4:30 in the morning. So really, I don't know. I'm just running on adrenaline. Like I have friends finally. It's been almost 2 months without any. And I'm just ready to go on a boat with a seltzer. But I remember my one friend had fallen, and not even because she was drunk. She just tripped over her boots. And so she had scraped up her knee. And so I was like, okay, I'll give her a pass. But I should have made the other two come with me, but we didn't go. We kept it more low key that night and built a fire. And it was just great having him there. So the weird thing is after, they left and it was so great to have them there and seeing Nashville with my friends. I remember when they all left and I was back in my Airbnb and I was thinking like, I wonder what my next birthday will be like. And not to like overdo it, like overthink it, but I mean, story of my life. I think just like, I just don't know, right? But went on. And throughout that year, April was great. I ended up buying my house in Hendersonville in May. June, just absorbed with work. And then the end of July, I ended up reconnecting with someone, a friend that I actually met the week I moved to Nashville. I met her when I was with my girlfriend back home when she was here for a week. And we were going to have our first bushwhacker, and they were out of them. The machine was busted. I don't know, something like that. But I had met this girl, but we had never hung out or anything. We exchanged numbers and Instagrams, but we had never got together. And I had invited her to a concert like in April, but she had never responded. So I was like, oh. And in end of July, she was like, hey, I'm going to be down on Broadway for this or that. Are you going to be out that way? And I had made a couple of friends, and one was he was playing a show, and so I was already planning on going down there. And so anyways, we connected, and it was just like fate because I finally had a friend, and we just spent so much time together. And through her, I met other people who really, and it really just kind of like spiraled into like me meeting a lot of great people. And so and then in like fast forward, I met a few friends through her in August, and then September, I met two of my favorite guys in Nash after a show that I went to by myself, and they were just there, and then we just clicked, and then we've been friends ever since. And then they've introduced me to more people, and just it's just so funny how just having one friend can lead to so many other things. It's just kind of one of those. And so I'm just so very grateful when I kind of look back through the timeline of all the people I've met in this, because I hear from people a lot that it's, especially as like an adult, and at this time I'm like working from home, so I don't have an office here. Like there's no office to go into, so I really don't have a reason to be out meeting people other than if I go out alone. And it's weird to me to think about because I realize it's a little natural for me and not for everyone, and I'm very grateful to just easily make friends, because it is kind of hard, because friendships are like this relationship, and you kind of have to click with different people, and you have to navigate different personalities. And just like any other relationship, you get the best of someone often at the beginning of that relationship, and then you start seeing more of them and have to determine if that relationship is serving you. I think like when we're younger, especially like in your, like late teens, early 20s, it's like a convenience thing with friendships. Like, okay, we're out together, we run around with the same people, we'll just kind of connect, but it's not really a meaningful relationship on both sides. But as you get older, you see like what actually works in a friendship for you and how you can show up for each other. And I really think personally, for men and women, friendships are so important, and making new ones as we get older is important too, because you're learning to like adjust to new personalities. And I think, especially like I've said, out here, majority of my friends are single. I think being able to build and create new friendships also lends some abilities to create better relationships if that's what you're looking for, because you understand that people have different backgrounds and upbringings and ways of communicating, and you have to navigate having discussions with people with different opinions and different mindsets. And honestly, moving to Tennessee showed me so much of that through these friendships. Like it's priceless how much I have learned about people by just opening myself up to saying, well, I want to know other people's perspectives, and I want to do new things. So I'm willing to say yes. I'm willing to give you grace. I'm willing to understand where how your mind works, or at least seek to. So this whole time, and I'm learning a lot. And I remember, I haven't talked about this a ton yet, but I remember my the I went back to Salt Lake in or what was the end of August to September. And I definitely will talk about that drive back. But that's when I really changed up my life and was just doing everything for the plot. I had left my corporate role and was just living. I was just living for each day and each experience and just saying yes to everything. And it really, oh my goodness, I wouldn't change it for the world. But even now that it hasn't even been that long, I look back and I'm like, who does that? It's so crazy to think that I think really when I look back at it, I was like letting go of all the old pieces of me slowly. And I think I was just overwhelmed with all of the changes and all of the stress of life. And I just wanted to like kind of take off all the heaviness for a minute so I could come back stronger. And I think through having that time to breathe, it really allowed me to be probably a better human in a lot of ways, because I just didn't have any more anger about anything. And not that I necessarily did at this point. I didn't about my marriage. I did about the stress I was feeling was overwhelming, I guess, in my role. And I probably did it to myself with the combination of everything that was going on in my life. But after that was released, I really got to just enjoy being myself. And it gave me a lot of hope that we don't have to be the same person we were forever. We can change. We're allowed to. I think we hear that, but we think, what does that really mean? But I've said this before. It's crazy for me to think. I remember booking my flight back to Utah at the end of or right before Christmas and thinking, isn't it wild that I just moved here and no one even knew me when I got to Tennessee? And sometimes we're so wrapped up in keeping up with the Joneses, or worrying about what Sally thinks, or worrying about what Jim believes, or worrying about this. But you could literally pack a bag, move across the country, and Jim and Sally might never see you again. Their opinions don't even matter. There's a whole bunch of people here that don't even know who I am. I'm just here walking around the streets. No one's going to say I saw Heather. Heather Morgan was walking around the Kroger. Like, no. I'm just here in this new place and no one knows me. And that's like so wild to think about, because we get wrapped up in so much of our own little space that we exist in, that we don't realize there's this like bigger, broader world of a whole bunch of people we haven't even met that know nothing about us. And I think there's comfort in the friends that know me and have known me forever. And I miss people knowing my soul and knowing me for years. But I also think it's so exciting to meet people and hear perspectives of people that you just never knew. 5 years ago, they were not even a thought. And now here they are in my living room with me, spending time with me on my birthday, calling me a bestie. How how is that even possible? So, like I said, if we fast forward to all of these great friends I met that year, that I was kind of doing it on my own. And just like I said, it only takes a few key friends. I would say literally building, 3 or 4 key friendships developed into branching out into so many more that I'm so grateful for. And so this year, when my birthday was coming up, I knew I wanted to be outdoors because I've missed, I didn't camp all summer long and I missed that so much. And so I'm like, this year for my birthday, I want to be hiking or outdoors or something. So that was what I did for my birthday. And I had said and I'd written like either Kentucky or Georgia. And I ended up getting to do really fun stuff in Georgia for my birthday, which I'm so grateful for. And I loved that all worked out the way that it did. But then the following weekend, I had friends over to my house for the first time ever. And if you knew me back home or how, I don't know, to me, I think how Utah is, like I was a big hoster. I hosted a lot. Like I would always have a big birthday dinner. Like I said, we hosted Super Bowl. I hosted Thanksgiving. We hosted ugly sweater parties. We hosted any kind of event that we could make. Cinco de Mayo, have your friends over, like barbecues all summer long, 4th of July, organized camp trips with big groups of our friends, all the things. So for me, having people over at my house felt like a little bit of my old self that I missed, right? Because I think sometimes you want to shed a little of who you are, but at its core, I still love the outdoors. I still love camping. I still love hiking. And I absolutely still love hosting people that I enjoy being around. And I just haven't really had the opportunity. I do live outside of town, so it's not super convenient. But the idea of having my friends over was at this point was much more exciting to me than doing the Broadway thing again. So if I was going to be in Nashville doing something, it would be at my house. And so I invited a whole bunch of my friends over, and I remember just as each of them walked in the door, just like taking a mental note of my gratitude. And I think, and I'm telling you this not to be like super cheesy or anything like that. I'm telling you because I think sometimes in our lives, we forget to just take a moment and go, wow, this person showed up for me and I appreciate that. Because I think at the end of the day, as you start thinking about life, like the people that show up for you are always going to be in your head. I'll, for another time, have to tell the story of my dad's funeral, but I still remember every person that was there, every card I got, everyone that sent flowers. It was just such a day that all of those people, and again, like this was going around and I read people talking about this and I believe it to be true. So I hope that if something's going on in your life and you're focusing on who wasn't there and who isn't showing up for you, whether it's to support the things you're doing in life or to show up to your birthday or to be there for the things, it doesn't matter who doesn't support and show up. That's not what matters at the end of the day, because that's not your business to know, right? Why they couldn't, why they didn't, what was going on in their life that made them unavailable or there for that moment. What the focus should be on who did take their time to show up for you. I think that's, if we did that in everything in life more, and just who came and showed up and just having that gratitude and appreciation for that. It's just such a better outlook. And that's what I tried to do. Every time someone walked in, I was so grateful. And I will never, ever, ever forget everyone that came and was there at my home the first time I hosted in Nashville for my birthday. And I remember my dear friend Danielle had bought me this cake, and I barely have any, everything have in this house is pretty much I had to purchase. So I don't have a lot of things. So the only clean plate I had for the cake, and I just love this because it's just life and it's just at its simplest, was this like plate I took that was like a Christmas cookie plate. And do not ask why without kids I would leave bake cookies and leave carrots for Santa and his reindeer as a grown woman, but I did. And so I had a plate specifically for that I brought with me. So that was the plate that had my cute little Publix cake. And I remember I took a picture because I wanted to remember of my cute little cake on a Christmas plate and all of my friends standing in the background. And it just makes my soul happy because people, these people weren't even in my life less than a year ago. I didn't even know them. That birthday in April in Hendersonville with my girls from back home was amazing. And now fast forward to a year later, I didn't know if I would even have any friends in a year. But I wasn't worried about it because I knew all the right things are going to happen and all the right people are going to come. And they did. They showed up. They wrote me the sweetest cards. They brought me the flowers, the cutest gifts. And I don't need any things. Honestly, no things. But that memory and their attendance, just going out of their way to come see me and my home, just, gosh, take the chance to try something new because it works out. It just does. It just does. And sometimes I have to remind myself of those things. And then when I tell these stories, I'm like, oh my gosh, Heather, see this other thing that you're kind of letting yourself worry about, don't worry about it because it works out, even when we don't know how. And this whole full circle of me from one birthday with no friends in Nashville last April to this one where I hosted great, amazing, talented humans that I adore at my house made me feel like, see, we're doing this right. Life just is going how it's supposed to go, and you just trust that it always will. So I'll end this super sappy and grateful episode with just saying that the song that comes to my heart over and over on this one is The Happiest Year of My Life. And there's a line that says, "You were my medicine. I couldn't quit. And I'm down on my knees again, asking for nothing." I really, truly believe Tennessee was my medicine. I needed to get off of the hamster wheel that I was running on and put myself in a new place with new experiences that I couldn't just run on a hamster wheel and not think about it. Actually had to navigate my way through this whole new path, this whole new journey. And I just met amazing people along the way. Even with this podcast, I remember the day I decided that I was starting it. It was a day in November. I'm driving to TEDx in Nashville for this woman TEDx talk at Vanderbilt. And I'm going to meet the one friend that I had, the first friend I really had out here, but she was late. So I was standing waiting for her, and a girl asked me, "Oh, do you want me to take your picture by the TEDx?" And that girl ended up also being in corporate America, also having a podcast, and immediately we clicked. And I can't wait to have her on the podcast with me because she's such an amazing human. But it's like literally that day I decided, this girl showed up in my life and is still here. So all that to say is that everything works out. And I am so very grateful. So when I say I'm asking for nothing, it's in that lyric, I really take from it like, I just wanted to take the path and see where it took me. I didn't need it to be anything other than just an adventure, and I knew it would just work out. So I hope you can trust yourself enough to remember that everything always works out for you if you believe it will. Thanks for listening to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter.